I think the greatest injustice that LGBT people face is violence. Violence is consistently used as a tool of intimidation.
In 80 countries around the world, same-sex acts are criminalized in one way or another.
Tragically, today it's far too common that LGBT folks around the world are routinely and brutally attacked, tortured, and even murdered.
There's a death penalty issue in many countries for just being gay or lesbian.
When someone is killed in Uganda because they've been imprisoned because of their sexual orientation, we have to respond to that. And we know how to respond to that. We've been doing it for the last 20 years.
We serve as an organization that is dedicated to the ability of every LGBT person around the world to be able to stand up, to be able to chart their own way, and to be able to fight for the rights that they are entitled to.
This is an organization that gets things done. And at the end of the day, we know that we are going to get our rights. It's just going to be a very long struggle.
They come to my home with the gun and they beat them and push them, and my 4 friends jumped from 7th floor to downstairs. And they have the hand broke, the teeth going out, the head. I tell them I get help from America with an organization whose name IGLHRCs.
In Cameroon, when 17 people were arrested and put in jail for the mere fact that they were just assumed to be gay, we helped line up lawyers to represent them, and we ensured that their arrests would not go unheard in the world. We shocked the legal system because they just thought they can throw them in jail. Out of that situation came the first LGBT group in Cameroon. Sometimes we help by getting people out of the country for a time being. The threats are so extreme.
I was leading a discussion about health matters, mainly on countering AIDS, and the police found us together in my apartment and arrested us. But they continuously beat us with clubs. I can say the whole precinct beat us. They simply said, "You are LGBT people."
Then IGLHRCs says, okay, should we mobilize international action around this? Should we mobilize a letter-writing campaign? Should we submit a report to the appropriate United Nations Council to address this?
Sometimes it's just letting somebody in those situations know that there's somebody who understands and is there to watch their back and is there to help them get through it.
The other part of it is that many local activists need support, they need logistical support, they need training, and this is what we provide consistently. We connect with them, we work with them in terms of documentation of human rights violation, in terms of publicity around the work that they are doing, and supporting their organization through providing trainings and financial resources.
La primera vez que conocí a IGLHR fue en el instituto y debo reconocer que además era mi primera vez en preparación como activista. El instituto fue la base fundamental de lo que yo soy ahora, de lo que he logrado como líder.
Throughout the years we had the Filippo de Souza Award. Every year we acknowledge the work of one LGBT organization or an individual. Give them money that they can basically invest in their movement, but also arrange for them to meet with local activists here in the United States, basically do networking.
Our greatest achievement is our continued existence and the growing number of individuals who are stepping forward to say that our rights should not be limited or compromised anymore.
Another area that IGLHRC has had a tremendous impact has been at the United Nations itself, often a very complex and cumbersome body.
I would like to bring your special attention to the current situation in Uganda.
We need to go further, and we need to, I'd love to see some specific language in UN treaties that guarantee protection from discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. It's a good goal. Our organization started 20 years ago, and it really was the brainchild of our founder, Julie Dorff.
We were really started by a bunch of ragtag street activists and immigrants who really came out of that era in the late 80s and early 90s of ACT UP and Queer Nation to fight for LGBT rights in the United States and out. Our mission was only as good as our relationships were with groups on the ground. And our biggest success in that first period certainly was getting our issues on the tables of the international human rights movement.
I think we've been involved in some of the major firsts in our community.
The very first asylum case based on sexual orientation was a lovely gay man from Brazil named Marcelo Tenorio. And Barney Frank, who was a big supporter early on, helped us connect with Janet Reno to ensure that that case would be elevated to a matter of precedent.
And hundreds of people have gotten asylum since then, and I feel very good about it. I walked into the Lambda Rising Gay bookstore a few years ago, and the man behind the counter came out and hugged me. He was Chinese, and he said, "I'm here because of you."
In 2001, the UN General Assembly had its very first meeting on HIV and AIDS. They had never discussed the issue before. And IGLHRC had been invited on the first day of that meeting. The countries of the General Assembly had actually moved to ban me from speaking because I represented a gay group. Overnight, we actually mobilized a campaign to reverse that vote.
It would be wrong, it would be deadly and disastrous not to place human rights at the center of our responses to the HIV/AIDS pandemic.
This was a turning point in the history of the UN, in the history of LGBT human rights advocacy, and in the history of the HIV movement.
I don't think we realized at the time how important some of the things we were doing. Whether it was Amnesty International or the United Nations or the State Department, we just made our strategic choice and went for it. We were young.
Julie created an institution that's continued today, that's stronger than it's ever been, that moves us forward as an international movement.
I ask for your forgiveness in the way in which we, the institutional church, have often treated you.
I think what we're called upon to do as we go into our next 20 years is to help our partner organizations throughout the world to have greater voice, to be able to function as effective, empowered partners in a larger human rights movement.
We need the support of everyone, and we want people to understand supporting the International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission is supporting the route to our rights worldwide.
IGLHRC is front and center, working on the ground, hand in hand with local activists, the way really no other organization is doing.
IGLHRC's international network means that they're the connective link between those of us in government who want to help and the people overseas. It's absolutely essential, and if they weren't there, it's a function that wouldn't get done.
IGLHRC works for the day when all human beings are valued and treated with dignity and respect. We work for the day when justice is a reality around the world for everyone.
Human rights.
Human rights for everyone.
For everyone.
Para todo el mundo.
A comunidad.
Everywhere.